Alright, so I was supposed to do a live Q&A on July 1st with Ali, but I haven't gotten all the funding and materials and everything I need for SFL on there yet. I thought it was going to come a little bit quicker, so it might be a little bit longer. But I'm doing this now, and I'm just going to answer a question I got in my inbox that I thought was very interesting is Jeff Sessions an idiot, or why is Jeff Sessions such an idiot? Thought that was a good question. Why is Jeff Sessions such an idiot? So I'm going to do that one, and then I'll start doing live Q&As where I answer random questions, probably with a more entertaining guest, like a Jorge, or maybe it's possible that I could get Sam Harris to do an episode. So maybe we'll do a Q&A with him and have more interesting dialogue. But I want to answer this question, and I'm going to say that he made the statement, good people don't smoke marijuana. And I'm going to argue that it's not completely idiotic. Now, it is very misguided. And if you go back in time to fucking Socrates or Aquinas or Locke, fucking Thomas Jefferson before the internet knew, had a more basic understanding of human nature than Sessions does. This statement is completely false. It has no legitimacy to it whatsoever. It implies an understanding of why people do things. It assumes that he knows everything about everyone, and he knows everyone who has ever smoked marijuana ever, and what their intention was and why they did it. It's a completely misguided statement that is generalized and has no factual basis whatsoever, and it is completely and utterly false. However, if you understand the thought processes, if you know anything about basic neuroscience or psychology, you can kind of understand what people mean when they say things. And I want to get into why he said this and why he believes it, even though I think if he read one book about neuroscience or psychology, or spent 5 minutes listening to any psychology professor, he might understand things better. Okay? That's fair. But I'm a P personality. I'm not a J personality. I don't know if you know what that means. In the Myers-Briggs, there's P's and there's J's. J's are more judgmental, and P's are more just like understanding. So it is a flaw of mine. I don't think I am critical and judgmental enough of people, but I am, and I think it's a very fair assessment to say, like, P is the Attorney General. He should know more than a 23-year-old college student who has almost nothing going in life at the moment. I'm going to get there, though. But you can make that judgment, like, he's completely idiotic. My personality is not like that. So I look at things from a why. So the amygdala is a part of the brain which a lot of conservatives tend to think more. And it's based on risk assessment and emotion, right? So Jeff Sessions, when he's looking at smoking marijuana, he's looking at it from a risk assessment thing. He's assuming everyone thinks like him, first of all. He's assuming everyone thinks like him, and he's thinking of it in from his amygdala standpoint. So just from that assessment, I know a lot about him. I could be his psychologist. That's how much I know about him by saying that one assessment. He's high in conscientiousness, he's high in hardworkingness, and he's low in openness. And these are traits of a lot of great law-abiding citizens. And they look at things from a risk assessment. And if you want to try to understand their point of view more, I would look into Sebastian Massaniano, who's a comedian, who humorously, he's a more conservative comedian, and he can help you understand how they think. Like, for instance, in the airplane situation, where the guy was pulled out of the airplane, he took a different perspective on that. Most of them were like, it's horrible. He was like, if I'm on a plane and someone tells me, get off the plane, I'm off the plane. I don't want a problem. I've seen Hitler, I've seen movies, I don't want a problem, okay? Way I think, I'm out of the plane, I'm gone, okay? I don't want to get hurt. I don't trust people. If someone says, get out of the plane, I'm gone. So you can it's a different type of thought process. He says he never wants to be a problem. And from this assessment, people who would make the decision to use marijuana from using the amygdala, if they did use this part of the brain, which I think most people don't, but it would be off of delinquency and rejection of authority, which are some libertarians, which people look at and say, oh, all libertarians are like this. But some people are just, they have a pattern of behavior of just rejecting all authority and being disobedient and reckless. And they're just like, I'm going to do this because someone told me not to do it. And when you're using your amygdala, making the thought process, that's why you do things. So Jeff Sessions is right that there are some people that just do drugs just because they're told not to. Why this is very misguided is because some people don't think with that part of the brain. They think with the anterior cingulate cortex, which is more based on future implications for those problems. Thomas Jefferson did a lot of drugs. If the DEA was around when Thomas Jefferson was 18, 19, 20, the Constitution of the United States might have never been written. Okay? Thomas Jefferson was very well versed in the brain, how neurotransmitters work, how dopamine and serotonin affect the brain, how much he could influence his brain and be okay with. He was, people who think with this part of their brain and decide to do something, especially if it's illegal, they are usually very, very, very well versed in the subject, and they can defend their decision to do so because they're thinking very logically. They're not thinking out of civil disobedience. They're honestly thinking out of, I know more about this than the person telling me not to do it, and I will argue for the implications, and I will make my case from a scientific or logical basis. So those people aren't bad people at all. If I were to think of everyone that Jeff Sessions probably looked up to that did drugs, it would be such a long list. I bet people didn't know how much of a druggie Thomas Jefferson was. Thomas Jefferson might have even bought and sold drugs. Definitely marijuana. I don't know if he dove into cocaine or like meth, or I don't know how far he got, but definitely was a pretty big druggie. And he didn't get in trouble because the DEA wasn't really around or sniffing into things. And you could still get in trouble if you were stupid about it. But basically that's my reason for why Jeff Sessions isn't completely idiotic and why he says that. Because he just thinks like a hardworking, law-abiding citizen who thinks with the amygdala of the brain. And if you look at societies like that, where people think like that, could be a good society or a bad society. You could have a society that just works really hard and are law-abiding citizens and make money and never complain and are never entitled and just do their job. And you could also have Nazi Germany, because people in the soldiers in Nazi Germany would be great law. All right. So there's this, and then I'm going to just answer some questions anyone has to ask. There's basically my answer for that. I'll do this for 15 or 20 minutes. Richie Cahill says, what about the 98% that don't think like this and are a problem in society? The problem with marijuana at this point is that there are a lot of authorities that are saying that it's okay. If you look at Adam Ruins Everything, where he breaks down marijuana and what it does to the brain and how it's basically harmless. This is a live national television show. People are watching on YouTube. Hundreds of millions of people have probably seen this. Or tens of millions of people rather. And he says marijuana is fine. So that's people using the amygdala could simply go to, it's just deciding what authority is correct at that point. And when you have Jeff Sessions saying no good people or good people don't smoke marijuana, and when you have scientists and neuroscientists and evolutionary biologists and TV hosts and admirals, everything and things like that, they are using the amygdala, and they are law-abiding citizens that are just appealing to an authority that seems more credible. From the standpoint of people who think with this part of a brain, it's very just based on who is the credible authority and who isn't. And sadly, a lot of the times it comes down to, in order to defend the fact that two people are very high up, like Obama and Trump, and they have such differing opinions, what they have to do is make generalizations like, oh, that person is immoral or stupid, and this person isn't. So it's kind of hard for them to, if you just appeal to authority rather than doing research yourself, it's conflicting to me how they choose which is the good authority and which is the bad authority. But I wouldn't say that the people that are smoking weed that don't think about it much are delinquents on society because of the mixing authorities. They're still choosing a credible authority. The problem would be probably people who smoke methamphetamine or crystal meth, perhaps. That would be the delinquents upon society because there aren't credible authoritative sources coming out and saying it's okay. But with weed, it's at this point, there's so many credible people that are saying it's less harmful than alcohol, and it, scientifically speaking, they are completely right, is it's almost harmless after the age of 26. And even caffeine is probably more harmful than marijuana, even if you're under 26. So I don't think they're delinquents or problems on societies. And if you think they are, the high jail rate is kind of proof that it's not working at all. So that it wouldn't be a problem. I smoked a lot of weed in my teens and 20s, and I have pretty severe anxiety issues. Again, so the anxiety issues which stemmed from marijuana, it's likely a causation doesn't equal correlation type of thing. It's possible that it could be related, but it's likely not. And I mean, if you look at the side effects of Motrin, if you just go down the list, the side effects of any medication you just look at, and it's just like, could cause death, diarrhea, drooling, sleepwalking, death, liver problems, fucking everything. I swear, look at the side effects of any medication that you take right now. Look at the side effects of caffeine. They're just endless and endless and endless of all the side effects. And if you're selectively attentive to the side effects of any drug, pick any drug and you're selectively attentive to the side effects, it's going to look bad. So to argue that anxiety is related to marijuana wouldn't, I don't think that's a good argument at all. And even if it was, the money that we are losing and the crime that we are instilling upon there's a time and place, and I'm very into reactionaryism or circumstances where in any given cluster of society with people and their media and just a cluster of information and a shitload of different circumstances and underlying ideologies that play into or factor into something, you could have a completely different logical look at something. In the United States, in every city in the United States, everywhere right now, marijuana being illegal is extremely harmful in any way you look at it, monetarily, and it causes a lot of crime because there's no, there isn't any court you go to if someone steals your weed. Or when you have black markets, you just have crime because there isn't anyone. There isn't anyone. If you have a ton of people smoking marijuana and a ton of people trading it all the time, and there's going to be people that try to steal from you, and if they steal from you, you can't go to a court, so it just turns into crime, and it doesn't make any sense at all. Isn't any reason that keeping it illegal helps people. But on the other hand, I think to the point of conservatives, I think if you advertise the legality of things for people who are more conservative minded, how they think of it is, oh, it's legal now, I could do it. Whereas people who are more liberal minded is like, oh, okay, I make my decisions based on my own understandings. I don't care if it's legal or illegal. I'm going to research anything that I'm going to do it. But from a conservative standpoint, from everyone that thinks like conservatives, advertising the legality could be potentially dangerous to people who are just going to be like, oh, it's legal now, so I can do it because mommy said so. Mommy government said I could smoke marijuana, so now I'm going to do it. And there are people like that. And that is a problem. But the death, the money, the hurting people's lives, ruining people's lives, the immense amount of money we're losing, and the effect on the economy greatly overweighs the types of people who abide to what authority says and will do things just based on the legal status. Although it is a good argument, but I think it's more of an argument for parents who just don't want their kids to do drugs and have helicopter rolls over their lives and just want in any way to the ends justify the means, not get them to do anything that they might find harmful or dangerous. And I think you see that with Jeff Sessions, where he says no good people smoke marijuana. The ends justify the means. He doesn't want people that abide to that type of authority to just go out and smoke. And it's a legitimate argument, but if you look at all the pros and cons, it doesn't even immensely stack up even a little bit close to the causes. At what age should a child be allowed to run away? It's a good question. I think like 5, in my opinion. But I don't know. That's a very complicated argument. It has a lot to do with maturity. And it's one of the most complicated issues I've ever dealt with, is when a child should be free of their parents, because there's just such a culture of abiding to social structures, and sometimes the social structures in a particular family unit is very horrible and hurtful towards the child. And I know a lot of people who are in horrible family situations, and if they were allowed to just go at 12 years old, they would have been better off on their own at 12 years old. I know a 14-year-old who lives in basically a drug house with a bunch of older people just sleeping on the floor there because the family is so horrible, and she's in a better situation than she is now, than she was in the family, and she's actually encouraged to like go get a job at 16 years old because she lives nowhere. The way I would like things to work is for courts to have judges that are very well psychologically versed and know things about how people's brains work, know their personalities, and make individual decisions based on individual cases. Because I think anytime you try to generalize any situation, shit hits the ceiling. Even like with this recent case where a cancer student isn't allowed to go to the prom because they missed too many days of school. Well, they have this rule: if you miss too many days of school, you can't go to your prom. And the cancer student, who is likely going to die, just wants to go to their prom before they die. And they don't make individual cases. Whereas I think everything should probably be an individual case. And I think we have the resources to do so. I think we have the resources to set every inmate up with a psychologist that understands the fundamental aspects of human nature and knows whether or not a person is ready to be released with something on their ankle or released free to go forever, or how long they should stay. There's situations in which someone going to jail for a year and coming out, they'll be great and have a huge impact on society. And there's this guy on YouTube who went to jail for a year, and he said it was the biggest wake-up call, and he couldn't thank jail enough. And he said jail was a very good thing for him because it taught him discipline and responsibility, and he taught him that you can't always do everything you want. And he learned a lot of lessons while he was in there. He read a lot of books, and he came out and he's largely successful, and he attributes all of his success to being in jail for a year and watching everyone around him grow up and do things, and he's just stuck in this bubble, not able to grow, not able to do anything. And he talks about if it would have been 5 years, if he would have gotten out after 5 years, he would have been a delinquent. It would have changed his whole perspective on life. If it was too much longer than a year, it would have ruined him, and he would have been just a horrible person, not giving a shit about anything. All right, and it felt like an injustice. So that's a huge deal, deciding whether someone gets 1 or 5 years. And sometimes based on their personality, 1 year could be great for them, and 5 years could, when they get out, you could be causing homicide by not having the intellectual capacity to assess someone's personality and assess what they need, and putting them too long in solitary confinement fucking screws up their brain, and they leave after 5 years and then go on a killing spree. Because it ruined their brain being in solitary confinement for too long. These are serious consequences to decisions that people just don't think about, and just put people in jail for. Okay, I keep disconnecting, but yeah, individual cases is what I would say to Richard Sessa, who, by the way, I want to get on the podcast to talk about capitalism. And so I'm going to upload our most recent episode as soon as possible. And then Thursday, we're having Jorge Drisati on the podcast to talk more about the situation in Venezuela. And I'm probably going to do a little bit of that in Spanish because a lot of his followers speak Spanish. So we're probably going to do like a fourth episode, just him talking in Spanish, and I'll ask basic questions and have a general understanding. And then I'm doing Jesse, who is a CC, on Friday. And I'll have probably these episodes up once a week. I said once a week starting July 4th, but it's going to be, I'm going to be late for the first 2 days, and my connection keeps cutting out here. So I'll do another live Q&A next month, July, June, July, August. And Ali will be here to answer some questions, and we'll answer questions from our Patreons first, who submit questions to me. And then secondly, after I answer those questions on here. If you want to become a Patreon for like $1 a month, go to Patreon.com/SFL on air. And for $1 a month, I think you can, or $3 a month, you can be contributors to ask questions. And that's pretty much it for this Q&A. But again, I'm trying to get donors and funding, and by the fall, this will definitely be more up and running and more organized, and it will get a lot better. So thank you for all the support right now. And even when it's a shit show right now, I still have 5 patrons donating to us, and I appreciate that. And it's going to get a lot more professional incrementally throughout this fall. And if you have any questions, message me, and if it's a good question, I'll make it into an episode. I'm sorry this one was kind of clickbait, but it's kind of true, because it's not completely idiotic. I don't think anyone is completely idiotic. I think if you think someone is stupid or idiotic, you simply don't understand their thought processes well enough to entertain why they think that way. And that's a problem, because it also means you don't know how to change their mind. Some people are too stubborn and don't listen. But if anyone's willing to listen, you know why they think the way they do, you can pretty much easily change their mind. And I change people's minds all the time. So does my friend Yusuf Mahmoud, who's very smart. There's so many people in the CC movement who are very smart, who just change so many people's opinions, who need to be way more recognized, because they are immensely well-versed in almost all aspects of academia, from psychology to evolutionary biology to economics to metaphysics. They're just extremely smart, and they change people's opinions every day and make more people libertarians, just because they're philosophers by nature. That's what they do. They just like talking to people. And Yusuf Mahmoud is one of them, and Trace Mitchell is another one, who they just talk a lot, comment on Facebook, and they quality posts, and they convert a lot of people to libertarianism, believe it or not. And they convert people that are open-minded and actually become greater leaders. So I really appreciate academic types like that. And not so much the taxation is theft all over the walls type of thing. I guess that's awareness too. But assuming everyone is an idiot is generally not helpful, in my opinion. So that's why I kind of use the clickbait, because I honestly think it's true. I don't think anyone says is completely idiotic. All right, so thanks for that question, and look for an episode in the next few days with me and Ali talking about the trip to Nashville.